All right, hello. It is Doug Diamond here. Hope you guys are doing well out there. How about that for an intro video? Homo Harari, as I like to say. Yeah, he had some important things to tell us, didn't he? He was basically describing hell, but he was calling it heaven. Sitting in front of a screen with some sort of glasses or goggles on and jacking into the matrix, of which people like him would be the programmers. No thanks. I don't want any part of that heaven, as he calls it, which would undoubtedly be hell on earth. All right. Well, welcome, you guys. It is 10 p.m. on Sunday night, July the 9th, 2023. I am back at my normal place, and we had a good trip last week. I was in Jekyll Island, Georgia, which is why you see Jekyll Island, Georgia across the top of the screen there. That is a historical type of picture that we're looking at, and I'll explain what it is here in just a second. But we had a really good trip, family vacation, first one in, 3 years, 3.5 years maybe, quite a while. I posted some pictures on my Facebook page. I don't know if you guys are Facebook people at all, but I think what I'll do is I will take those pictures, and I may have a few more, I'm not sure. I took a bunch, and I'll put a Substack article and post together for you guys and have some links in there and things like that. I really didn't do much video. I thought I might, and I didn't do much video. I mostly did still photos, and I found, which is kind of what I expected, that the folks in Jekyll Island, at least the people that call it home, really didn't talk much about, the Fed, and because it is the birthplace of the Federal Reserve, and we did some touristy type things, and I had to go seek it out. It was not front and center by any stretch. So what I'll do is I'll put together a Substack post this week sometime, probably not tomorrow, but at some point this week, that will have some additional pictures. I sent a few out earlier today on Substack, and they're the same ones that were on Facebook. And I'll put some links in there and some things like that you guys can learn more about Jekyll Island if you want. We had a really good trip, and I did learn a lot, actually. So it was a fun trip. Super long drive. It ended up being, 10, 11 hours or something like that each way for me. So I'm a long way from the beach. Anyways, I'm not a big beach person, but I went mostly because it was a really good historical chance to learn some history. So this is one page that I found, jekyll-island.com/history is where this is. And this kind of goes back more or less to the beginning. The beginning of the colonial era, if you want to call it that. But if you get down here to 1910, this is kind of an example of what I'm talking about. It's one little sentence. Senator Nelson Aldrich led a party of financial leaders to Jekyll Island to create the forerunner of the Federal Reserve, today's modern banking system. It's basically a footnote. And I found that to sort of be the case there as well. People were there for the beach and for vacationing, not really for the history aspect. Now, the picture that you're seeing at the top of the screen here, this one, has to do with this next paragraph, and I'll mention this now, and then we'll move on to the news. First transcontinental telephone call was made in the United States in Jekyll Island. Presiding over the ceremonies by telephone were President Woodrow Wilson, traitor, I'm adding that, in D.C., Alexander Graham Bell in New York, Thomas Watson, who is his assistant, in San Francisco, Henry Higginson in Boston, and the AT&T president Theodore Vail on Jekyll Island. And that is who is, I don't know which, it's probably this guy, I'm guessing. I'm not sure if it's this guy or this guy. One of these two guys is Vail, and that's the picture from Jekyll Island. And they made the first phone call across the United States, where they had people joining in on that same call in other cities. Pretty amazing. So that actually happened too. That was kind of neat. But anyways, yeah, there's more information to be found. I didn't really find a lot more about the Indian tribe that I mentioned last week. I did do a live stream last week while I was there, and I had just gotten there. There was not much to be found, really, that I could find on the Indian tribe, the Timucuan Indians, and apparently they descended from the Canaanites. They basically were of the Nephilim bloodline, and they were giants. They were smaller giants because it was post-flood, but they were still 8.5 to 9 footers, according to people who have seen the bones of some of the chiefs. So I'll send out what I can on that as well. I did find a good video or two about that. So anyway, sign up on Substack if you guys want. The link is up there in the upper right corner, diamonddisk.substack.com. So that was my Jekyll Island adventure, and I probably won't bother bringing it up anymore, but it was pretty neat. It was good, and like I said, got some good pictures. So let's move on to the news, and this is the broadcast from last week. I don't know if you guys happen to see it, but it is available on Rumble. I did have some actual photos of the Driftwood Beach area, which got some really good comments on those photos. That particular tree, I didn't take that photo that you're seeing there. That was just one that I found, but I did find that actual tree, and I compared it to this one. I thought that was kind of weird. But anyway, Driftwood Beach was pretty amazing. So again, I'll send out some pictures on Substack. So join up on Substack if you want. Let's move on to the news. Got lots to cover tonight. So the first one I have pulled up is actually from a few days ago now, July 5th, but I think it's still important just because, we're watching this whole nuclear thing potentially play out, and this is another Medvedev quote: "Any war can be ended quickly using nuclear weapons." So I guess that would be a true statement. Deputy Chairman of Russia's Federation Council said on July 5th, "Any war can be ended quickly either with a peace treaty or by doing what the United States did in Hiroshima, using nuclear weapons." So they definitely have the good cop, bad cop thing going there. I think Medvedev is probably what I would probably quantify as the bad cop, because he's always talking about nuclear war, and I believe him. I don't think they're pulling punches here. I really don't think they're making stuff up. I think they really are going to do something extraordinary if they don't get peace, and no one is seeking peace except probably the Russians. I mean, they're the only ones that are willing to come to the table. Nobody on the NATO side, nobody on the Ukraine side, nobody on the United States side. They want war. So that is not good news. But anyway, yeah, Medvedev had that quote earlier in the week, and the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant has so far not been attacked. However, the NATO summit is coming up. So this headline says, Zelensky set to blow up the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant ahead of NATO summit, says senior Russian lawmaker, different guy. And says the NATO summit will be held in Vilnius on July 11th through 12th. So that's just in a few days, later this week. And that's in Lithuania. So it will be interesting to see exactly what happens between now and then. A lot of people are thinking that the Ukrainians will, of course, attack the nuclear power plant and blame it on Russia. Of course, Russia is going to get the blame, just like they got the blame for the pipeline, the Nord Stream pipeline being blown up, and all kinds of other things. The bridge in Crimea got blamed on the Russians, like they're bombing their own infrastructure and blowing themselves up. Like we're actually dumb enough to believe that. But of course, the American media is dumb enough to believe that, and well, at least some of them, and a lot of the people who follow them certainly are, because they just believe what they're told. They just believe what they're told. So I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a good chance that something bad could happen at Zaporizhia. They've really announced it. It was even trending on Twitter a few days back. So a lot of people are certainly aware that there may very well be a false flag. I think people will be onto it. So therefore, because it has been so exposed, perhaps it won't happen. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm praying for as well. So hopefully you guys can join me in that, because we do not need a nuclear incident. And I'm afraid that that's exactly what NATO will try and force in order to push Russia into a corner where they feel that they can use the Article 5 and then basically say that NATO has been attacked and therefore we are declaring war on Russia, and then we're off into the running in World War III. So who knows if that's what's going to happen. Let's hope it doesn't. But man, it is not looking too promising. And then to add more impact to that, breaking news, Russia confirms BRICS to launch gold-backed currency. So if things weren't already bad enough, because we all know that, once the U.S. is not the big kid on the block there, once their monetary system going back to the Federal Reserve, once their monetary system gets laid waste to, there's a really good chance that there will be war immediately following. When all else fails, they take you to war, as the famous saying goes. The U.S. takes it very seriously when anyone around the world tries to do anything that would unseat the U.S. dollar as the world's de facto reserve currency. The U.S. is already itching to go to war with Russia over the Ukraine conflict. With today's announcement about a gold-backed BRICS trading currency, it seems logical that the U.S.'s gloves will come off. Yeah, it's going to get ugly, according to Hal. So there's quite a bit here on this article, if you guys want to look at that. HalTurnerRadioshow.com on all three of those last ones that we've looked at. And I've got one more pulled up here, just because I thought it was interesting. He's calling this biblical, and I don't disagree. Swarm of locusts hits Utah so large it was captured on weather radar. I remember years ago there was a lot of talk from Dutch Sense from his YouTube channel talking about birds and bats and stuff that get flagged as being seen on radar, and sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's simply, let's just say, the geoengineering program being exposed on radar, or other things that are happening, other weird anomalies. And this particular thing, though, I looked at it, and it does actually appear to be a swarm of grasshoppers, according to what Hal has written here, at least. Says the swarm of grasshoppers invading Tule, Utah is so large it registered on weather radar systems. The plague of grasshoppers moved into northwestern Utah was so large it was picked up by the National Weather Service. And some people here in the comments say that indeed that they have friends and know people there in Utah, and that they are confirming that the grasshoppers are taking over. So I guess it's real. So that's pretty wild. Something to watch out for. This farmer here says, every bit of alfalfa that's in my fields is gone. Rancher Michael Dow says, I planted a pasture and all the seedlings were about 3/4 of an inch tall Sunday morning, and on Sunday evening they were gone. It was bare dirt. And that is what grasshoppers do. So, wow. There's a plague of grasshoppers invading Utah. Doesn't get more end-timesian than that, does it? Man. Pretty crazy. HalTurnerRadioshow.com as well. All right, let's move on. Got some other articles here. Technocracy.news. C.S. Lewis foresaw dystopian technocracy based on scientism. I like how this image kind of sums it up. Got the guy praying at the altar of the microscope in science. Very true. Very true. Several people in the 1900s foresaw where society was headed. C.S. Lewis was one of them. His book, That Hideous Strength, describes a literal pact with the devil at the highest reaches of the technocracy, but at the same time, a mechanism whereby the larger system remains defiantly bland and normal seeming, and only a crazy person would ever think there's anything hidden at the heart. Only a crazy person, only a conspiracy theorist. This guy is talking about, he recently reread the 1945 novel That Hideous Strength, which I have not read it. I don't know if you guys had, but I thought it was kind of interesting that that's what he's talking about essentially here. And then talking as well about Brave New World in 1984, which I've mentioned many, many times in this broadcast. So yeah, lots more here if you guys want to look at that one on technocracy.news. And article number 2 from there, wind industry blackmails UK, demands huge increase in subsidies. Now Britain is finding out that investing in windmills for power was the stupidest thing ever. The very companies that they gave birth to are demanding higher and higher subsidies to bail them out of red ink. In fact, the industry has never been profitable and has only pushed electric rates into the stratosphere, but that is why they set them up, so they can eventually shut the power off in favor of something that won't work. And that's what's going on. In a move that gives the lie of 2 years of propaganda claiming falling costs, the wind industry's leading lobbyists have written to the government threatening to abandon the UK unless subsidies for their companies are hugely increased. I think they should tell them good riddance. But of course they won't. It's the EU we're talking about here, after all. Meta launches Twitter clone. I don't know if you guys knew about this. Harvests all your data and immediately starts censoring. For all of Zuckerberg's bluster about his Twitter-killing clone called Threads, it may end up being a nothing burger if users figure out how much of their personal data is being sucked out of their mobile devices used to access the platform. Zuck is a consummate technocrat who sees no issue with hoovering up your data in return for using his free app. So I don't know if are you guys on Threads? Me? No, I'm not. And don't plan to be. Meta claims that over 10 million people have signed up for its Twitter competitor Threads in what CEO Zuckerberg framed as a friendly alternative to the little blue bird. That's because it's got the reputation after Musk took over as being a conservative platform. Good one. Have you seen Twitter? So anyway, we'll have some more on Thread here in just a little bit. I've got a few other threads. We have a few more articles pulled up on that, so we'll come back around to that. France is in a state of near anarchy amid riots following police shooting of Algerian teen. France is steeped in ongoing mass riots that include the burning of buildings, buses, and cars. We mentioned this last week. Vandalism and looting following the fatal police shooting of this 17-year-old of Algerian and Moroccan descent. And the protests are against alleged police abuse and racism, although his family said the riots are not for this guy. Nahel. The teen refused to stop for police and struck an officer before he was shot and crashed his car. He had an extensive police record. So this is more about that, including some video clips. And I've got another video here. I think a couple other articles pulled up on that. So we'll look at that in just a minute. Got a video about the ongoing mess happening in France at the moment. Liberty Beacon, thelibertybeacon.com, NOAA runs away from the hottest day ever claim. You can see Gore making a lovely face there. Says, last week the global warming industry and its corporate media cheerleaders made a concerted effort to declare July 3rd and 4th the hottest days on Earth ever. Media outlets like ABC, New York Times, Axios, and Bloomberg each cited the University of Maine's climate reanalyzer computer model, which has since been questioned, like it should be. The NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, told AP News, although NOAA cannot validate the methodology or conclusion of the University of Maine analysis, we recognize that we are in a warm period due to climate change. Also due to geoengineering, primarily. Yeah, so they apparently have run away from the hottest day ever claim that they had put out, I don't know, maybe in a tweet. So, anyway, more of the same, more lies. So, yeah, we'll come back to geoengineering here in a few minutes as well. Into the American Dream. This is an article I found I thought was kind of interesting. It says, do you know about the 3 eclipses that will combine to create a giant Aleph over America? And there you can see it with the X in the middle and the line down the side here. Apparently it's a Hebrew letter. So this article is about this and then relating it to biblical information. I thought it was kind of interesting. The map below shows roughly what the giant X will look like. Now this is several eclipses. It's not just one, and they're actually dated right here. So this first one that's going across the screen is the one from 2017. It's going across from coast to coast pretty much. And then let's see, this one right here going from northwest to southeast is one coming up in October this year, and then this one over here is slated for April next year. So anyway, it kind of tries to connect the dots and says that that there's some sort of biblical significance about it, and I don't really disagree with that because if you look at this right here, I think this kind of helps sum it up. In the 21st chapter of Luke, Jesus warned us that there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars in the last days. So we should watch for these things. So I agree. Anyway, kind of an interesting article. I will link to this one on my Substack post tomorrow, as well as all of the others. So while we're at it here, let me take a look at what you guys are saying before we get too far along. Did the people seem real and genuine when you inquired about the history of the island, or were they vague and weird? I didn't really find too many people to ask about it, honestly, but I would say that they weren't really weird. It was more like they weren't really aware of it too much. The folks that lived there were, but they didn't really care. You know what I mean? I mean, I would say that for the most part, it seemed like it was really played down, if anything. Should have taken your shovel to dig for bones. Yeah, really. Right. And I would also be in prison right now if I hadn't done that. Because it's a state park. The whole island is a state park. The Roots of the Fed, Tracing the Nephilim from Noah to the U.S. Dollar, a book by Laura Sanger. Okay. Thanks, Davey. I didn't know about that. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Kelly says, I wouldn't talk like that if I was Zelensky, saying that they'll be all together at the summit. Yeah, I know. That's something that Hal has posited as well, saying that there's a good chance that, well, not a good chance, but there's a chance that they could get hit, saying that they're all going to be in one place under one roof. I don't think the Russians would do that, but I could see where it might be advantageous, perhaps, if something like that were to happen for the whole world. But yeah, I don't really see that happening. How else will they reduce the global population besides nuclear war? Susan says. That's a good question. I think that's a likely outcome. Unfortunately, they're going to get their numbers reduced. The Malthusians will get their numbers reduced for sure. Just because they remove the guide stone doesn't mean they abandon the goal. Susan says. Yep, totally agree. Yeah, I think those numbers, and I don't even know if those numbers are really legit, what was on the guide stones, but I think there's a good chance that they could be even less than what the guide stone said. What was it, 500 million or something? Don't know. No way on Threads. I can't believe that you didn't see the 3 6s on the Threads logo. Maybe you'll mention it later, Kelly says. Yeah, I have an article pulled up about that. I didn't really see the logo until I saw the article about it, actually, so we'll look at that here in a minute. Jumpsuit orange might complement my complexion, Susan says. Interesting. I have a friend who was in Paris this past week, said that the tour guides made sure they weren't exposed to any rioting or disruptive behavior whatsoever, as if it weren't real. Yeah, really. They just avoid those areas, maybe. I don't know. Kelly says, yeah, and we're entering the solar maximum. Let's see, I bet tourism is probably the first source of income, Kelly said. Yeah, I think so, on the island. I think you're right. Yep. So anyone else getting unsubscribed? It's my second time over the past 6 months. Well, thank you. I think that's Sam. Thank you for bringing that up. And actually, I was going to mention that tonight. Yes, people are being unsubscribed to my YouTube channel every day. Every day. I'm noticing the numbers are ticking up slightly and then down slightly. So please, if you're subscribed on my YouTube channel, just go back and make sure you're subscribed, because you may not be now. You may be, but you may not be. I think they have an algorithm that automatically, if there's content on a given channel where you've had strikes or they don't like what you put out or you've been demonetized, they automatically start peeling people off of subscribers. It's the wonderful, benevolent way that YouTube has of dealing with people that they don't like, and I would definitely be on that list. So let me see what the last... Yeah, so thank you guys for checking on that. If you happen to be on YouTube, definitely check and make sure you're still subscribed, because you may not be. So let's move on. We've got a few more things here to look at. You can see a lot of tabs across the top, which is kind of the normal routine for a Sunday night show like this. WEF says fashion will be abolished by 2030. So if you consider yourself a fashionista, fashion will be abolished by 2030, and humans will all wear a uniform, unless you're Klaus Schwab. Then he gets to wear the Klingon uniform. World Economic Forum has declared that by 2030, fashion will be completely obsolete, and all humans will be vegan, whether they like it or not. I think they mean insectian. Newly resurfaced report written in 2019 states that humans will only be permitted to buy 3 items of clothing per year, not per month, per year, and will be prohibited from buying or consuming meat, unless, of course, it's insect protein. Published in 2019, The Future of Urban Consumption in a 1.5 degree C world, which I tend to agree with Dane. I think we're already well past 1.5 C. Report funded by the WEF sets out extreme targets for governments around the globe to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's always the That's always the catchphrase. As consistent with the 2015 Paris Agreement ambitions. The report outlines 6 areas where world governments can take, quote, rapid action to address consumption-based emissions, end quote. Food, construction, clothing, vehicles, aviation, and electronics. So they want to shut down all that stuff pretty much, except for electronics. They want our lives to be inextricably connected to electronics, meaning that we never can get away from them because they want to constantly surveil us. Anyway, yeah, so this article goes on a little bit further here. So 3 articles of clothing. They're gonna ban fashion by 2030. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but that seems to be the plan. I don't know that they will make it that far. I think that they do want to try it, but the verdict is still out on that one. I don't think people will go along with it, but we'll see what happens. Mass riots spread to Switzerland and Belgium following unrest in France. So this is probably a good time to watch the short video I've got queued up here. Mass riots that began in France on June 27th have now spread to 2 other European countries, Switzerland and Belgium. So yeah, let's watch this short video and we'll be right back. Yes, so they are being culturally enriched in all these other countries, except Poland. Poland is not falling for it. They've said no to the immigrants. They've imported 0. So I thought that was pretty interesting. They're leaving all the other countries to be enriched. And they are really reaping the rewards for sure. So now it's spread to Switzerland and Belgium, apparently. So, yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out, but it is not looking good. All right, and then I found this meme kind of sums it up. Sire, the orcs are at the gates. Well, don't be a racist. Let them in. Do you remember the chaos that underwater properties caused in 2008 and 9? Well, it is starting to happen again. This is on activistpost.com. Several other good articles on there. I'll just read the headlines in case you guys want to go visit the website. 1/3 of Seattle residents may flee the city over crime and costs. 1/3. The future of traditional farming and healthcare in the Netherlands. And 18 medicinal properties of cucumbers. So pretty interesting. There's some good info to be had over there on activistpost.com. I'll leave it up to you to visit that site. And here's more on Meta's Threads. It says Twitter clone launches, immediately censors anyone with unapproved thoughts. Well, that lasted all of 5 seconds. That was quick. Your thread on Threads has been removed. So somebody violated their community guidelines instantly. Good news for young couples looking to save some money. You can now get married at McDonald's for $200 and chicken McNuggets are included. So there you go. And I'm kind of laughing at this picture because you can tell by looking at these two, they do not eat at McDonald's. Sorry. For just around $200, couples can now live the absolute dream of getting married in style at their local McDonald's restaurant, and that price includes 400 chicken McNuggets. There you go. Pretty funny. Okay, so the trip to Indonesia probably isn't cheap, but just try to find a $230 wedding venue in the U.S. You can't do it. Even with the $1,100 round-trip plane ticket for you, your beloved, and some family, I'll bet you still will save money. The guests can enjoy their McNuptials in McStyle while snacking on a McChicken and live McHappily ever after. Talk about a McDream coming true. So, yeah, they really played that one up. But, yeah, it was pretty funny. $200 and chicken McNuggets are included. So if you don't want the people attending your wedding to live very long, feel free. Go right ahead. What's up with these videos of people freaking out on airplanes lately? I don't know if you guys know about this woman who, well, let's just read this. Okay, pretty much everyone who lives on the internet has seen the video of this woman freaking out on a fake person, quote-unquote fake person, who she claimed was aboard this American Airlines flight departing Dallas. Woman is going viral accusing a man of not being real on the airplane. Seriously freaky, like this lizard people stuff right here, and it scares the heck out of me. She really just up and left the plane because she thought there was a fake person on board. who was somehow going to kill everyone. And now we have another, a little more intense video out of Europe of a man freaking out on someone and then beelining it to the door, apparently trying to escape the flight as well, but in the air. So this is a similar one, a second one, which I hadn't seen that. So let's watch this one, I guess. Don't know if there's any expletives, but I guess we'll find out. Here we go.
Mate, just get out. Hey, mate, just fuck everyone off. Listen, come on, please. You! Mark, I'm doing it around in short time.
Look at everyone filming, man. What's wrong? Whoa.
Get him out.
What the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever wondered if we live in idiocracy, you can kind of watch that video and figure it out for yourself. But yeah, it says random airplane freakouts. So if you fly a lot, just be aware that this is going on. It seems to be a trending thing happening right now. I don't know if it's being done on purpose or not. I did find a Greg Reese video that we can watch that kind of explains this, the first one with the woman here that this article was about initially. So let's watch this. It's called A Brief History of Shape-Shifting Reptilians. So let's see what Greg has to say here. There you go. So what do you guys think about that? I don't know. I mean, I guess, that video kind of covers a lot of the different religions and things like that. I don't really totally agree with that. However, I tend to look at things from a Christian perspective. And I do think that there is some validity to it. I'm not saying that these people freaking out on airplanes, that there's any validity to any of that. Who knows? I have my doubts on that. I do think that it's very possible that you could have people who resemble humans who aren't fully human. I think that's certainly feasible. And in fact, I've worked on some films. Some of L.A. Marzulli's films come to mind. That sort of thing is actually fairly routine in his films, and we have people who have witnessed that exact thing. People that they've been engaged with, talking to, and then their eyes blink in an unusual way or something like that, or even actually far worse than that. So I do think that is very possible. I think that probably does exist. However, I think that these social media things that are being pushed do seem to me to mostly be hoaxes, from what I can tell. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Let me know. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was a pretty good video, and it certainly does shed some pretty good light on the fact that we can hear it coming from the guy who was accused. We can hear it coming from his mouth, and it just so happens that he happens to be a Mason. So she kind of freaked out about that. It sounded like she was willing to see even more there than was possibly there. He looked pretty normal to me when he was talking later on. And the other video that had gotten all of the views was actually from a year ago. So, I mean, you have that kind of stuff happening all the time where people are sharing videos saying that it's new information when actually it's actually, it's an older one. So speaking of weirdos, look at this one. This lady is upset that she can't seem to find a job. I wonder why. Good grief. I don't think she's looked in the mirror then. Some mysteries are so vexing, so puzzling, and so beyond the reach of mere mortals that you can safely assume they'll never be solved, such as why this lady is struggling to find gainful employment. Melissa Sloan, 46, who hails from Wales. And who else hails from Wales? The Prince of Wales. Previously had a job cleaning toilets, but not that there's anything wrong with that, but she says she hasn't been able to find a similar gig because of the art that adorns her face and body. I can't get a job, Sloan bluntly told the Daily Star. I applied for a job cleaning toilets where I live, and they won't have me because of my tattoos. Seems to me like she is getting all these tattoos so that she can complain about having all the tattoos and nobody liking her. Notice, too, that she has upside down crosses on her forehead. So Yeah, that's just terrible. A lady not being hired because of her tattoos. Is it a few stylish designs on her arm? Maybe a peace symbol on her neck? Oh, okay. Yeah, she looks like a lizard. I mean, she literally looks like a lizard with upside down crosses on her forehead. Well, that's rough. Can't anything be done about it now, I guess, but no doubt this lady is soberly reflecting on her rather bizarre life choices and is at least determined to pump the brakes on the tattoo thing, right? And she says, I'd like to be a record holder. It's just something different, she declared. I'm trying to get in the Guinness Book of Records. So, there you go. So I guess there's a price to pay for wanting to be the most heavily tattooed person or whatever she's going for in the Guinness Book of World Records. But she can't find a gig cleaning toilets. I don't think I'd hire to clean toilets either. I don't know what you guys think. I'm sure she's a fine, upstanding individual, but still, man. You gotta wonder. Again, we live in idiocracy, do we not? Idiocracy 2, maybe. Probably just a coincidence. Zuckerberg's Threads logo was made from 3 6s. A satanic symbol. There it is. So you guys were wondering about the 3 6s. Yes, I didn't miss it. I just had it pulled up as a another article a little bit later on. So there it is. I don't know what else could be said about that other than it's 3 6s. There they are. If you wondered. One's vertical, one's sideways, and the other one is backwards. Just like the old Build Back Better with the 3 Bs that look like 6s, right? BBB, 666. Yep, they hide it in plain sight, hoping no one will ever notice. A war crime. Joe Biden turns the U.S. into international enemy number 1, will send thousands of cluster bombs to Ukraine, despite these weapons being against U.S. law and banned by 120 countries. But it's okay if we do it, I guess. The U.S. is actively considering supplying banned high-risk bombs to Kiev. So yeah, cluster bombs. See if it explains exactly what that is. They're it's a bunch of small bombs packed into a larger shell, I believe. Let's see here. Yeah, cluster munitions explode and disperse a series of smaller bombs over a wide area, often killing civilians. More than 120 nations have signed a 15-year-old treaty banning their use, but Ukraine and Russia have both deployed them. And Ukraine's supplies of all types of ammunition are dwindling. So, it says that 5 days into the war, Jen Psaki, the former White House press secretary, was asked about the Russian use of cluster munitions. She said, "We have seen the reports. If that were true, it would potentially be a war crime. But it's not a war crime when Biden does it." You see how that works? Anyway. Yeah, but somewhere I read that Biden actually said that we're running out of ammunition to give Ukraine. I thought that was kind of funny. King Charles III is crowned again, this time in Scotland. Ceremony prominently displayed heir William, Prince of Wales, in Edinburgh. So, yep, more about the soon-to-be Antichrist, I think. But King Charles III waited 70 years to be crowned monarch, and as his mother held a long and fruitful reign, but now, a mere couple of months after his May 6th investiture, he will do it all over again, this time in a ceremonial rather than statutory event. Says that Charles was presented with a scepter, a sword of state, and the crown first worn at a coronation by Mary, Queen of Scots, in 1543. He and Queen Camilla participated in a solemn religious service at St. Giles or Giles Cathedral, gazing at the ancient Stone of Destiny used in the inauguration of Scottish kings. Afterward, a squadron of Royal Air Force jets streaked across the cerulean skies above Edinburgh's Royal Mile. So anyway, apparently he's now the King of Scotland too. So just so you know, he's the King of Jerusalem, he's the King of Scotland, and the King of England. And what else may he be crowned eventually? The Antichrist? Possibly. Well, I think so. I think that's where it's headed. But anyway, time will tell. So, yeah, King Charles is at it again. So, Madonna apparently had to be brought back from the dead with a Narcan injection. I don't know if you guys knew about her little incident she had a few days ago. According to Radar Online, she had to be brought back from the dead. Pop icon Madonna was rushed to the New York City hospital on Saturday after being found unresponsive at her residence. So interesting. On Saturday, June 24th, Madonna developed a serious bacterial infection which led to a several-day stay in the ICU. Her health is improving, however, she is still under medical care. A full recovery is expected. So says they. Yes, she will return to normal sometime in about, a century or two. Radioactive material reported missing near southern U.S. border. U.S. officials remain silent whether Mexican officials issued an alert. Says a container of iridium-192 reportedly went missing at the southern border state of New Mexico, prompting Mexican officials to issue a warning and speak out to a local news station in El Paso. While concern was raised south of the U.S. border, American officials remained silent. Now, questions remain after a recent report that the radioactive material was recovered on July 3rd. So, I don't know. See, U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission radioactive equipment disappeared in southern New Mexico, according to Mexico's federal government. Says the missing equipment is described as a container with iridium-192, which is used for medical treatments and also in the oil industry, which are very well connected, right? Going back to the beginnings of the pharmaceutical industry founded in oil. The missing equipment is described as a container of iridium-192, which is used for medical treatments and is also used in the oil industry, according to the commission. Says the first time his department has issued an alert for missing radioactive materials. So, but get used to it, right? So anyways, yeah. So says details remain sketchy. So this is on the Gateway Pundit. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I know some of you folks listening happen to be in southern states down there, southwestern states. So just keep an eye out. Robert De Niro's aspiring actor grandson found dead at 18. In a luxury New York City apartment. Radical leftist actor De Niro's 18-year-old grandson was tragically found dead while sitting in a chair in a $1 million apartment in the Wall Street district. Man. Poor kid. Says, was following in his grandfather's footsteps, the son of his adopted daughter and her artist husband. Was found with a plate of unidentified powdery substance next to him. But we don't know what actually did it, so I will credit that with as a big question mark, really, with this kid. So it's really too bad, though. Anyway, yeah, more kids dropping dead. Watch, Joe Biden takes no questions and fails to salute as he leaves for another weekend vacation. Well, every other day, it's pretty much a weekend vacation. Says Biden Friday afternoon departed the White House for another vacation. He spent 352 days, approximately 40% of his presidency, on vacation with no visitor logs. 80-year-old Biden shuffled over the staircase to Air Force One without saluting the service members. Well, he was probably too worried about his main nemesis. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? His main nemesis in his entire administration is, of course, stairs. And he's facing the beast right there. And he's got the tall stairs in front of him, not the short steps. Sometimes they give him the short steps. I guess that's like the short bus. But it's the presidential version. So yeah, he's facing the stairs and being really brave, but he forgot to salute the soldiers. But again, it's okay if he does it. Boy, we are just living in a unbelievably failed state. And again, idiocracy too, isn't it? 9/11 Twin Towers survivor and hero, father of 3 young children, dies rescuing kids in an overturned raft on Lake Michigan. On the 4th of July, a heroic father of 3 who survived the 9/11 attacks tragically passed away while saving the lives of children whose raft capsized in Lake Michigan. Man. Luke Laidley, 43, was driving a boat on Lake Michigan near Winnetka, Illinois, when he saw a raft of children overturn around 1:30. I don't know why they were out there by themselves. Some of the children who were thrown into the water began struggling to stay afloat. Laidley wasted no time, jumped into the water to save those who were drowning. After about a minute underwater, Laidley surfaced with the children and got them safely out of the water. However, once he got himself back on the boat, he was in serious condition. Those on the boat administered CPR before emergency responders arrived on the scene, but Laidley was pronounced dead shortly after he arrived at the nearby hospital. It says it was some other type of medical emergency. It was unclear whether Laidley drowned, which I don't think he would have drowned because he got back into the boat. Unclear whether Laidley drowned or if he experienced some other type of medical emergency when he jumped into the water. Well, what do you think? My guess is he probably had a heart attack, just from what I've read about this. But, wow, poor guy. But he died being a hero. I mean, literally saving kids from drowning. Unbelievable. So it does give you some hope for humanity, huh? A little. Not much, but a little. Breaking box office hit Sound of Freedom. Have you guys seen this movie? I haven't seen it yet. Projected to make $40 million in opening week. This is with actor Jim Caviezel. His latest film, Sound of Freedom, opened at select theaters on the 4th of July. Most famous for his role of Jesus in The Passion of Christ. That was an excellent movie. Went on the War Room to promote his upcoming film, Sound of Freedom, by Angel Studios. Film is based on a true story that exposes the evil of child trafficking. Caviezel worked with several former federal agents and 30 Navy SEALs while filming in Colombia. Sounds of Freedom reportedly beat out Indiana Jones last weekend. Yeah, well, I think just about any home movie could probably beat out Indiana Jones at this point because the guy's like 100 or something. Anyway, yeah, so I guess that's good news if you're a Jim Caviezel fan and just want to make sure that the truth about child trafficking comes out. People are flocking to see this film, apparently. So I didn't know if you guys knew about that. And then another one about King Charles. I had a few people send me this. Not my king chants from protesters as Charles visits Scotland. So this is back to Scotland again, where he was crowned king yet again. But yeah, there's always these protesters. It's certainly more than a handful. You can see there's quite a few people here actually. Not my king, they're saying. I frown on the crown, it says on some of these signs. So somebody asked me about this and said, how could he be the Antichrist if he's so unpopular? Well, I don't think he is unpopular. He is, but he's not. I mean, he's not the Antichrist quite yet. A few more things have to happen first. And in my opinion, this could be a setup for eventually the attempt on his life. If something happens in such a way as to when Scripture talks about the person who is the Antichrist, and that an injury will happen to this person that will marvel the world when he comes back to life, essentially. And I think this could be kind of a setup for that, in that you have a group of people who don't like him as king. And you can count me in that category. However, I would never do anything to harm the guy. And most people wouldn't. However, it could be a setup for the coming situation where they make an attempt on his life, and even if they're successful, and at that point he's indwelt with the spirit of Satan. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do think it's interesting that that they're even really talking much about the people that are protesting him. But I do think it's important to some degree, at least, to mention it. But all it takes is one person with the gun or whatever to make an attempt on his life, and then you have the mortal wound that he may suffer. So pretty interesting. We'll see where it goes, but we may not be all that far from something like that happening, unfortunately, because if that happens, boy, you know what's next. He will be indwelt at that point, I think. InformationLiberation.com, we've run out of ammunition. This is where I saw that. I mentioned that earlier. Biden explains decision to send cluster bombs to Ukraine. Biden blurted out to reporters on Sunday that his decision to send widely banned cluster bombs to Ukraine was made because we've run out of ammunition. So he just basically blurted it out and said it out loud. Said the quiet part out loud, as they say. Pope Francis meets with Bill Clinton and Alex Soros at the Vatican. So if you want a group of evil minds, there you go. Francis met with Clinton and Alex Soros in a Wednesday private audience at the Vatican. Summit.news, why do you support child trafficking? Rolling Stone slammed over negative Sound of Freedom review. So this is the, back to the Jim Caviezel movie. The pedo-loving propagandists at the once great Rolling Stone are at it again, this time seemingly defending child traffickers with a scathing review of Jim Caviezel's anti-child trafficking film, Sound of Freedom, which they described as a, quote, QAnon-tinged thriller about child trafficking, end quote, which is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer. So there you go. So they don't believe it one bit, apparently, even though it's based on a true story. And it's been proven over and over that this is going on. But if a Republican or a conservative brings it up, it's automatically discounted and apparently not true. Video RFK Jr. pushes back when accused of being a candidate who traffics routinely in conspiracies. He just says, show me where I was wrong. Well, you can't do that because he's a Democrat. He can't be trafficking in quote, conspiracies, right? Democrats don't believe in them because even bank robbers can't have conspiracies, apparently, if you're a Democrat. During an interview with leftist outlet Reason, presidential candidate RFK Jr. challenged the host to prove him wrong when they suggested that he continually spreads conspiracy theories. And, when people say that about me, I always say I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy analyst. Yes. Anyway, there's a good article here on Summit.news. And let's see what else I have pulled up here. Threads is an absolute joke. I was going to play this, but I don't think I will. I think it's only a 2 or 3 minute video from Paul Joseph Watson. If you guys want to watch it, you can find it at Summit.news. I'll link to it in my Substack post tomorrow. The conversation app for NPCs. Like Twitter, but with poorer functionality, more data harvesting, and way more censorship. So, Facebook then, he says. Pretty funny. UK, Spain, Germany, and Canada come out against Biden sending civilian killing cluster bombs to Ukraine. Mentioned the cluster bombs a couple times. Numerous Western countries are speaking out against Biden's decision to send cluster bombs. Yeah, but we're out of ammunition, he said. So he just comes right out and says it. VaccineImpact.com. BRICS versus Davos, the race to a new world currency. Another article, are Tesla's EV competitors all adopting Musk's charging stations by force so the government can track all EVs? Could be. And another article, Healthy Traditions expands local network distribution, new online payment options, bypassing credit cards. So, an option to bypass credit cards, not a bad idea. Wyoming law expands Food Freedom Act, opens market to small egg and dairy producers. So Wyoming and whistleblower Ukraine is harvesting the organs of children in laboratories, new films on child sex trafficking. So, and then the last one here, there's no peace for the U.S. So that's the articles here on Vaccine Impact. These other ones I mentioned last week. So, yeah, vaccineimpact.com is where those are. Good stories over there. Let me see what you guys are saying in chat. See if I missed anything here. I'm probably talking away here. That's good. Is that a Hoover in Bill Clinton's nose? Yeah. Well, he didn't inhale. Or no, that was the weed, right? He always says he put it. He said he put it up to his mouth, but he didn't inhale or whatever the story was. I remembered hearing that for the first time when I was like, I don't know, in my early 20s, and I'm like rolling my eyes thinking there ain't no way I'm voting for that guy. Let's see here. Where did we leave off? Long time ago, I read 500 million mentioned with the Georgia Guidestones was for 5 locations worldwide and 100 million people allowed to live in each area together, Betty says. Okay. Interesting. I didn't know that. Sheeple visit Jekyll Island too, it seems. Yeah, they visit there and they live there for sure. We still had a good time though. It was fun. I would still highly recommend it if you guys want a historical type of trip. It was good from that respect. If you put coffee mugs on the shop, Amy and I will buy some. Okay, so that is Sam. So yeah, I will do that. I was actually going to. Somebody asked me to add some hats in the shop, and I will add some of those mugs as well. We definitely have mugs we can add. Big Tower was busy traveling and stuff the last week. I haven't had time to do everything I wanted to do, but I will definitely do that, Sam. So thank you in advance for that. Yeah, I'll put some mugs in there and a few other odds and ends. There's some other goodies that you can find. I'll do that this week, and feel free to look in there again soon. The link to that is shop.thediamond.report. It's there on the upper right part of your screen. So yeah, that's where it will be. Yeah, funny stuff. Love it. Susan says yes. The McDonald's wedding. Trying to discourage air travel, ? All travel. Yeah, that's something they're trying to, they are trying to ban that. So maybe that has to do with all of these air travel social media things that have been cropping up lately. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Yes, these videos promoted by mainstream media are staged. It's almost so obvious, Susan says. I wonder what the lifting of the veil will expose. Reptilians or Nephilim return, or what will cause men's hearts to fail them with fear, True Nature says. I often wonder what supernatural things will be revealed. Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on who you ask. As far as from a biblical standpoint, I've heard so many different reasons for men's hearts failing them for fear of what is coming upon the earth. I've heard all kinds of different reasons, and I think we just flat don't know. I don't think we know yet. These royals do love their ceremonies, don't they? Yes, they sure do. Madonna returned to normal, ha. That's what I said. Maybe the people who oppose the AC are the ones chosen to be taken out, Susan says. That could be. Could be. Have you read Prince Charles Joan Vion, 1997? Somebody else had mentioned that book to me, but I have not read it. No. Prince Charles, the Sustainable Prince, 1997. Yeah, that's right. And don't know if it's a good book or not. So anyway, yeah, vaccineimpact.com is where we just were. Now, geoengineeringwatch.org. This is this week's show, July 8th. So it was yesterday's show. Biden opens the doors to geoengineering atmospheric chemical altering plan to block sunlight. The world needs to prepare for massive crop failure. The former all-time overall global high temperature record was shattered on July 3rd. The next day, Tuesday, July 4th, Monday's record was broken. On Wednesday, yet another new record that was followed by a fourth record in a row on Thursday. An abrupt climate collapse is unfolding at blinding speed. Much worse is coming. So, geoengineeringwatch.org and the latest broadcast of Global Alert News for July 8th, show number 413. Hard to believe we've done that many shows, but yeah. It's available, geoengineeringwatch.org, on Dane's YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out. Another really good show. And he goes into the whole thing about the temperatures and what's actually causing the high temperatures. And, of course, we know it's geoengineering, but then he goes into detail about that. He was also recently on with Mike Adams on one of Mike's podcasts, too. So you can find that as well. I didn't pull that up, but you can find that on Brighteon or naturalnews.com or whatever. But yeah, so Dane is still getting the word out, doing an incredible job. Lost Search Radio this week, we didn't do a show. Richard was not feeling well enough. We do have one planned for next week, and Richard will hopefully be back in the saddle as well. So we're planning to have another new show next week, and last week's was a good one. It was the one with the Flat Earth guy, Mark Sargent. Turned out pretty good. Even though I'm not a Flat Earther, I think that it still turned out pretty good. The guy was really nice, and had some good points to be made for sure. And I don't mind listening to people who have put together thoughtful things to defend their position. And that's really kind of what I come back to, and he did a good job on that. Haven't made any changes to the End Times events list. I had some inquiries about the timeline, and this is the timeline, and some folks have asked about where they can get it, and it is free. You can get it on the any of my End Times dates videos, really on any of the platforms. You can go to not only YouTube. Well, there's a couple of the videos that have been banned on YouTube. I think it's parts 6 and 7 maybe. Not available on YouTube, but you'll be able to find them on Rumble and Brighteon and BitChute. They're on those channels, those platforms. And if you want the timeline, you can download it for free. There's a OneDrive link. Just look for it in the description in any of those platforms. It's there. So that's how you get it. You can just go there and download it for free. So yeah, and again, I haven't really made any changes. The only thing I changed, I came up with this melding of really a couple different things back in 2019. The white timeline, the original timeline, is the Fuel Project's timeline. The red blocks are what I added after working on 2028n.com, which is a really good website and video series talking about Jesus returning, Feast of Trumpets, September 2028. And so by working on that project, it really opened my eyes to, okay, if that's when Jesus is coming back, then you should be able to work backwards from there. So then I set about trying to put that into timeline form, which is what you're seeing there. It's kind of a combination of those dates from the ones that I've added here in red to the Fuel Project's timeline. And again, it's free. You can find it on any of the description boxes in any of the End Time Dates videos. And the only change I've made really since I started this back in 2019 was right here in the, I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I may be blocking it. No, I guess you can see it. Where it says no peace treaty. I added that little block when I realized there was not going to be a peace treaty to kick off the beginning of the final 7 years. And I moved the edge of this block from about right here over to about right here. And I still think that this holds true as far as the way I'm seeing it play out. Of course, I'm happy to be wrong about all this stuff. Again, I have a family. I don't want them to only have a few years left. I don't want to myself only have a few years left, just like I don't want you guys to only have a few years left. But we just don't know. And man, putting this together in 2019 and thinking at that time something serious is going to happen in 2020, and then of course COVID hit and all that happened, and it's really just been a downhill spiral since then worldwide. I mean, who'd have thought? And I did interviews back in 2019 talking about I felt like 2020 was going to be an important year, and certainly it was, and I even pinned it down to March 2020. So I call this video series Take It to the Lord in Prayer, because that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what you should do as well. I'm perfectly happy being wrong about any of this stuff, but so far it's actually proving a little bit more true than I would like in some respects. So we'll see. I mean, if I need to adjust a few things, I certainly will, but so far I haven't really needed to. So we'll see how it plays out, obviously. So we've got a little time left on that. And coincidentally or not, it definitely fits into the timeline that Dane's been talking about. We only have X amount of years left too, and he's far under 10 at this point, which kind of coincides with what I've been talking about too. And we haven't ever talked about this that you're seeing on the screen here. We've never talked about it. So pretty wild. So we'll see what happens. We will see. Only God knows for sure, right? So there's a Substack page. If you haven't subscribed, please go do that. It's free. And I will say this, thank you in advance to those folks who have decided to contribute a little something to that. And just know that I certainly appreciate that. It is not something that you have to do. It's you get the same content free or otherwise. And if you want to contribute to what I'm doing, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much. And mostly I just want to be able to stay in touch with you guys. And on Mondays, after I do these live shows, so sometime tomorrow, I will put together a Substack post that will have all of the links and all the articles that we talked about, and probably most of the videos as well, will be linked in that Substack post. And I'm going to also do I mentioned this at the beginning of the broadcast, and most of you might not have been here then, but I'm going to do one other Substack post. I don't like spam you with Substack posts. I usually do 2, maybe 3 a week. And I know some people on Substack will do like 30 in a day. You know, they just wear you out. So I don't want to fill up your inbox with emails, but I want to be able to stay in touch with you guys in case something happens and I get deplatformed on other systems. I want to be able to reach you by email so that we can stay in touch. And you guys can reach back out to me as well through email by being signed up on that Substack. So what I was going to say was I'm going to do one other extra Substack post this week talking about more details about the Jekyll Island trip and with some more pictures and things. So I'll put that all in a Substack post, much of which I've already put on my Facebook page. So if you've already seen the Facebook posts, you probably won't really get a whole lot of new information on the Substack post, other than it'll probably be in one place. And, you know, I'm pretty well shadow banned, I think, from what I hear, on Facebook. So, I mean, even though I put it on Facebook, you may not have seen it. So, but if you're on Substack, you'll definitely get the email about it. So we'll do that later in the week as well with the pictures. Lots of really great pictures from the Jekyll Island trip, and some really good video links and stuff too that I will send. All right, let's see here. What else we got? We talked about the shop. I'm going to add a few more things to that this week. Right now it's still just t-shirts, but we're going to add mugs. And what else do we say? Hats. And probably a few more odds and ends. So next week I should be able to show you a few more items. So yeah, we'll look at that when we get there next week. And then Telegram, you can find me the Diamond Report. t.me/The Diamond Report, and also Take It to the Lord in Prayer. I have 2 different pages on there. So you guys can find me on Telegram, and that's also my backup live streaming platform too. And then YouTube, you guys are already on the YouTube channel, most of you. And again, if you've subscribed, just like Sam said earlier in the comments, he's been unsubscribed multiple times. So please go check your subscription, because I'm guessing you probably have been unsubscribed. I mean, I'm losing a few a day, like I said before, so not good. But that's just the nature of it. And then you can also find me on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon and ClickView. And then I mention this every now and then, so feel free to look me up on DiamondDiscAudio.com. You could just go to DougDiamond.com. You can find me. It's the same website. And this is my mastering and mixing business. And I do other things as well, build websites and do music placement and things like that. Podcast production, as you guys know. So there it is, DiamondDiscAudio.com, or you can just go to DougDiamond.com. I appreciate any referrals on that. I have friends who, like on Facebook, maybe have people that they know they're involved in the music business, and they send their friends my way. I certainly appreciate that. That's very helpful for me. So that's how I'm able to continue to do what I do and not charge anybody anything for it. It's because I fund it by working a regular job, and that is running this music business that I have had since 1996 when I founded it. So anyway, I guess that's it for me this week. Let's see what you guys are saying, if anything else. Keep an eye out for the mugs, Sam says. Okay, yeah. I don't see any other comments. It looks like we got them all, maybe. So that's good. All right, well, let's see here. We have another video. I'll close with this other Greg Reese video talking about the Fed launches phase 1 of their CBDC this month. And there's been some controversy a little bit on what exactly is the Fed doing. And, of course, the Fed comes from Jekyll Island, does it not? So it's pretty interesting to see how things are sort of playing out. It's weird, when I made the trip to Jekyll Island, right before that, just a few days before, is when the whole thing with the Titanic happened. And there's a connection there between the original sinking of the Titanic and then what happened at the Federal Reserve when basically in 1910, the clandestine meeting, the secret meeting happened, and then by 1912, the Titanic sank, and there were some industrialists, some people who opposed the Federal Reserve, or a central bank, I should say. They opposed a central bank for the United States, and those men, many of them, died on the sinking of the Titanic, which was actually the Olympia, and then in the next year, 1913, is when the Federal Reserve Act passed. So not a coincidence, you can bet. So anyways, pretty interesting. But then this year, I happened to be making the trip over there to find out more about it, and this whole little Titanic mini-sub thing happened just a few weeks, or a week or two before that, whenever it was. So pretty weird how that stuff works out. But anyways, I guess that's all I had for you guys this week. Again, stay tuned. Watch for the extra Substack post this week. We'll see how it works out. Probably be, I'm guessing, by midweek, hopefully. So tomorrow, the Substack post will be the links and stuff for tonight's show. So thank you guys for being here. Certainly appreciate it. And God bless you guys. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Susan. And thank you, True Nature, and everybody who's here. Sam. And everybody who is here tonight, certainly appreciate your support. And we'll do it again next week. I guess we're kind of back on this Sunday night at 10 p.m. Central routine. I've thought about maybe throwing an extra show in here or there. I may still do that. And I'll do it in a way that sort of surprises everybody. So if you see me live someday, just one day during the week, maybe this week, maybe next week, maybe a month from now, don't be too surprised. I may just pop on and do a show like that, especially if something major happens. I will certainly do that. But I want to have at least one show, I think, this Sunday night show now, be pretty routine, where people can know that this show is going to be a certain day and time. And then if there's extra ones involved that are at random days and times, then, that's just extra programming, extra stuff that you guys can tune into if you want. And there's never a lack of news, that is for sure. So God bless you guys. Hope you have a good one. Let's watch this last Greg Reese video, and we'll see you guys again next week.